Coucou à la team YouTube, j'espère que vous allez bien, j'espère que vous êtes confortablement installés. On se retrouve pour la suite de Vampyr. Sans plus tarder, c'est parti dans la descente aux enfers. Il mange du bois. Allô?
Hello, sir. Sorry to disturb you at this hour. I'm a doctor inquiring about the epidemic. May I come in?
A doctor, you say? No, thank you.
Ah, ok.
All right. I shan't insist. Goodbye for now, sir.
Oh, on a découvert un autre citoyen. Où habites-tu? Ici. Ok, je vais essayer de m'en souvenir. Il habite là. Oh, et du coup, il est malade. Il lui faut un traitement pour la migraine. Intéressant. Oh, faut vraiment visiter toute la ville, vous avez vu? Non, c'est pas Miss Crane qu'on entend quand même. Lettre pour Nurse Crane. Oh, est-ce que j'ai le temps de la lire ou pas? Londres, le 31 octobre. Ma chère Dorothy, lorsque tu liras cette lettre, je serai déjà sur le bateau qui va nous ramener, Anton et moi, à Brasov. L'Angleterre n'était pas faite pour nous et je dois avouer que j'ai hâte de revoir nos fières collines de Transylvanie. Je te promets, dès que nous arriverons, j'irai allumer un cierge dans l'église noire et je prierai pour que tu survives à cette terrible épidémie. Je sais que tu n'es pas d'accord avec cette décision et que tu penses te rendre plus utile en restant aider nos camarades exilés dans l'Est End, mais Anton a tellement hâte de retourner dans notre cher pays et de voir notre révolution tant attendue prendre son envol. C'est mon mari et je dois rester à ses côtés. Je sais qu'il nous arrive de nous disputer. Je sais que tu aurais voulu que je reste à tes côtés et que je t'aide à t'occuper de ta clinique. Mais maintenant que je quitte l'Angleterre, je veux que tu saches une chose. S'il t'arrive quoi que ce soit, que tu as des problèmes ou bien que tu es en danger, je reviendrai immédiatement à Londres, avec ou sans Anton. Pense à moi autant que je pense à toi, ta sœur aimante, Théodora. Oh non. Ok. Je sens que ça va être elle. Oh non. Elle est où? Je l'ai tuée sans vouloir la tuer. Oh non, le fait que elle a mal tourné. Oh, je m'en veux tellement, je m'en veux tellement. Oh, mais qu'est-ce qu'il fait là?
Good evening, Mr. Petrescu. What are you doing here?
I could ask you the exact same question, Mr. Doctor. Now leave me alone.
I heard what happened to Nurse Crane. How do you feel, Mr. Petrescu?
Everything was going well until you arrived. Dorothea helped people and will be sorely missed.
I regret it too. I wish she'd continued working at the Pembroke Hospital. She was a good nurse.
So you put an end to the operation. Did you put an end to Dorothea as well?
You seem to have a lot on your chest, sir. What's wrong?
I heard you are a famous surgeon. Tell me, what did you do to Dorothea? She was so bright, so clever. Then you made her an empty shell.
I didn't use drugs or medical trickery, Mr. Petrescu. All I did was talk to Nurse Crane. I promise you.
But what happened to her then? After you left, she did not even recognize me. Then she got careless and sick, and I had to flee.
Tell me everything you know about Camellia, the mute florist.
I do not believe in the afterlife, Doctor, but I'm almost convinced Camellia is an angel. She volunteered to give out our medical leaflets.
What do you plan to do now that Nurse Crane is gone?
I'm not sure. Strange men came to see me after Dorothea's death, with strange weapons and very odd stories.
What kind of stories?
Stories all Romanian children know. It was as if I was home again. Vampires, Mr. Doctor. Vampires.
You believe them? Aren't you too old to hold a weapon or listen to scary stories?
Yes, I am old and alone and will die soon, but if these stories are true, maybe I have found myself another cause.
Are you living on the streets, Mr. Petrescu?
And why not? Those who believe they'll be safe behind walls are blind.
What about your house?
My house is always open to any poor soul needing a roof. All my work here is lost now that Dorothea is gone, thanks to you.
Why are you so aggressive?
I remember the night you came here and convinced me to open my door to you, sir. I'd like to punch you right on your chops.
Goodbye, Mr. Petrescu.
Laissez-moi.
Remorse and pain are precious when binding you to the earth.
What?
You. I remember you.
Il est où? Il est où? Ah! Il est là? C'est quoi ça? Pourquoi il a une tête de cerf? Mais...
Fear be gone. I would harm no child of my making.
This is your doing. You made me this creature. What are you?
I am the land. You are our champion.
Je veux ma médaille. Je veux ma médaille.
Tell me what you are.
I am the whitened bones and blackened soil. The land made blood coursing through thy veins.
What is it you seek?
This age is sickly. An ancient poison, an older rage, brewed in a cauldron newly forged.
This has something to do with the epidemic.
Seek truth, my champion. Defeat the serpent of knowing with iron spur.
Non, pars pas, j'ai d'autres questions. C'est très mal poli
I've
de
had enough
partir
of
comme ça.
others making decisions for me, pretending to know how I should feel or behave. So the vampire who made me is some sort of disembodied entity? Or was he just projecting this vision in my mind? Maybe Edgar can help me with this one.
Ok, on va aller voir Swansea. Il se dispute avec quelqu'un.
Traitor to us all. You're nothing but a warlord of thugs and bullies.
Inconnu. Gâché. Oh, c'est qui? C'est qui? Comment est-ce qu'on peut espionner?
Embraced the path of a war.
Coucou.
God protect us. You've got a leech in the hospital.
Yes, my hospital. My mission is to heal while you go about warring.
You've set the table for a snake. I wonder why there's venom in your food.
I'm growing tired of your song. You're a woodsman, McCallum, not a doctor. Return to your hunt.
Remember, I've a good nose for machinations. I can flare the scent at a mile. You can't hide from the god.
Leave him, Jonathan. This is sacred ground. Neutral territory. And I just had the carpet cleaned.
Vas-y, effleure-moi en passant. Oh, c'est le grand amour.
By the sacred stole, this is very bad news. Bad news indeed.
Bon, c'est qui celui-là, là?
Eh, c'était qui celui-là?
What happened?
The hospital has been attacked. We have injured patients, at least one dead and several missing. This has spiraled out of control. Even the most infirm are asking to be allowed to return home.
We cannot have the people lose faith in this institution. This hospital is their only hope.
Of course, you're right. But we cannot afford a public scandal. It would ruin us. We must restore order, and quickly.
You mentioned a dead patient. Who is he?
She, Jonathan. She was Miss Harriet Jones.
What?
I found her room like a slaughterhouse. Blood everywhere. The duty nurse is taking care of the mess.
Very well. I'll help you.
I know this place means something to you. I have noticed how you suppress your appetite when around the staff and patients.
You need to know you can trust me, Edgar.
I do, dear fellow, I do.
Please then, tell me.
Sean Hampton, the man we thought we'd saved at the docks. It seems he was infected after all.
So Hampton became more beast than man.
Exactly. And now Guard of Prewen suspects the hospital of vampire activity. Do you realize what that could mean for us?
Well, they are not far wrong. The hospital is almost crawling with vampires.
McCullum is a fanatic. The Guard will stop at nothing. You don't know what they're capable of, Jonathan.
Very well. Since I brought Mr. Hampton here, I will put an end to this. If you don't mind, I have a few questions.
I'd be delighted to help you if I'm able.
I just recently met the strangest creature in Whitechapel. He was immense. He mocked me and accused me of hypocrisy.
Perhaps it was a skull. London's streets are overflowing with them these days.
It was a vampire, all right. But what kind, I'm not sure. He was large and very fast.
If you find anything more about this creature, the Brotherhood would greatly appreciate any information you could spare.
He was observing me with the obvious intent to do me harm. His very presence evoked a palpable sense of menace.
You need to be careful, Jonathan. You've no idea what this creature really is.
What exactly happened here while I was absent?
Hampton turned, quite violently as it happened. Lurking about, attacked Miss Jones. To say he created quite a commotion would be an understatement.
Are you sure it was Hampton that killed Miss Jones?
There was blood everywhere, but no body. And you know the state she was in. I fear for what he did with her. Hopefully he just hid the corpse.
How did the Guard of Prewen come to hear of this?
McCullum has spies everywhere. He will jump at any opportunity to disparage the Brotherhood and show his contempt.
I recently tried to enter a church. It has been a very unpleasant experience.
The Brotherhood's research on the matter of faith and vampirism has proved somewhat insubstantial, to say the least.
Is this proof that I'm cursed in the eyes of the divine?
The wrath of the Almighty? There's no way of knowing. It could be subconscious guilt, or irrational fear, or deep-seated beliefs.
It's hard to explain in terms of science, that's for sure.
I'm sure Lady Ashbury will have far greater insight into this matter than little old me.
Who was that man in your office?
Geoffrey McCullum, actual leader of the Guard of Prewen. I suspect he's the man behind the rebirth of this old and dusty society.
They know I'm here now, don't they?
I can guarantee one thing. The Guard of Prewen would never dare to attack the hospital while I'm in charge here.
What do they hope to achieve?
Their ultimate goal is the eradication of all vampires in the country. They see you as a threat to mankind, Jonathan.
Thank you, Edgar. Sean Hampton lives and breathes for the well-being of his flock. There's no other place he would go but the docks.
Disgust on every street corner.
Ah, il est pas... Bah oui, bah oui, bah oui.
What on earth happened here?
Oh la vache, mais attends, son corps, il a été traîné jusque où? Oh ok, attendez.
So many deaths.
Good evening, Mr. Elwood.
Evening, Dr. Reid.
Can you tell me anything about recent events at the hospital?
Before the shouts and the noises, I think I heard whispers coming from the stairs. 2 voices, maybe more.
Did you recognize the voices? What did they say?
I couldn't hear. Sounded like they were arguing or something.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
Damn. The pain. It's here again.
Good evening, Miss Howcroft. How are you tonight?
I need blood, Doctor. Warm, rich, vibrant blood.
Is there anything you can tell me about the recent commotion here?
Many things can happen under cover of night, Dr. Reid. But I took no part in this massacre.
But did you see or hear anything?
I can't say I did. But the smell of fresh blood almost made me faint, Doctor.
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
I wish I could be sick again.
Good evening, Nurse Brannigan.
Good evening, Doctor.
What can you tell me about the recent events in the hospital?
That Mr. Hampton killed Miss Jones in her room, then ran away.
And did you see all this?
No. I was working by the tents when it all happened. I only entered the room when they asked me to clean up the blood.
Where is Miss Jones's body?
I don't know. I'd imagine the morgue. It all happened so quickly.
Did you see Sean Hampton leave the hospital?
I think I saw a silhouette exiting the hospital gates after the shouting started. At first I thought it was someone who was just scared, but... well, maybe it was him.
Goodbye, nurse. Call me if you need assistance.
I'm quite busy right now, Dr. Reid.
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
Nothing like this would have happened if we'd had enough staff and proper shifts.
So you don't think the blame is ours?
We all hold fast here, Dr. Reid. Our methods may differ, but we are all trying to make a difference.
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
But in the circumstances, I'm willing...
Good evening, Dr. Strickland.
And good evening to you, Dr. Reid. Can I be of any help?
Can you tell me anything about the recent commotion in the hospital?
I'm sure it was not your fault, Dr. Reid.
My fault? What do you mean?
Oh, nothing. It's just... I heard it was you who brought the murderer inside our walls. But you couldn't know, could you?
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland. Good evening, Mr. Fiddick.
Good evening, Dr. Reid. Any news about my operation?
Please, tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital.
I heard Miss Jones call for help from her bedroom. There were some loud noises, like people fighting. All of a sudden, it went quiet. And then the nurse started screaming.
Do you know who the nurse was?
Not sure, but I think it was Nurse Hawkins.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
My sweet girl.
Hawkins, okay.
Reads me like a book.
But in the circumstances, I'm... Good evening, Doctor. How is my...
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
It's a disgrace. How on earth can patients be attacked in their own rooms?
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick. Good evening, Mr. Goswick. How are you?
I'm okay.
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
I had shouting coming from the first floor. I was asleep when it started.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Good evening, sir.
Ashbury, on va lui parler. J'en vais parler à Hawkins. On va d'abord parler à Lady Ashbury.
Oh, Jonathan, I cannot believe my eyes. Poor woman, butchered by some savage scowl.
What?
Yes, and I'm afraid I'm at least partially responsible. The man, the Scal, I brought him here.
Jonathan, how could you say such a thing?
Forgive me if I feel despondent, for there seems to be no end to the suffering and death that surrounds us.
I'm always here for you, Jonathan.
What do you know of Ascalon? I was threatened by a creature, a vampire in Whitechapel, stating I had to obey the law of conduct.
What more can you tell me about him?
He was bigger than a man. Huge, in fact. He seemed to radiate violence. I thought he was going to tear me apart. Then he vanished.
Fergal, the executioner of Ascalon. You were fortunate he was not after you, but rather out doing his master's bidding.
What is Ascalon?
The Ascalon Club are the most powerful vampires in Britain and exert tremendous influence. Take my advice and stay well away.
Have you embraced this woman, like the other patient, this Mr. Renfield?
Her name was Amelia. And no, I did not kill her. I vowed a very long time ago that I would never take another life, unless they ask.
Is there sufficient vitality in the blood of the sick and dying patients?
Yes, Jonathan. The hunger gnaws at me every waking hour. Frankly, I'm starving.
Temptation surrounds us. Rich, vital. How can you resist?
Over the years, any pleasure I once gleaned from feeding is long gone. I drink for sustenance. And though I still thirst for more, I restrain myself.
I have experienced a certain difficulty when faced with holy symbols, or trying to enter religious buildings. Have you?
Now that's quite a question. I don't know why, but yes, it has happened to me.
Is this a sign? A hand of God in action? Are we repellent unto heaven?
I don't have the answers, Jonathan. But I believe superstition and magic is just fact awaiting the lens of science.
Aren't you frightened?
Very little scares me, my dear. To be compelled to avoid symbols of faith does not concern me.
Thank you, my lady. I hope to see you again soon. Good evening, Milton.
Good evening, Doctor. Still trying to save lives?
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
Someone killed Miss Jones in her room, and Mr. Hampton's gone missing. Doesn't take a genius to piece it together.
You don't seem shocked by any of this.
Why should I be? Whoever did this must be long gone by now. And besides, he got rid of the old bag.
Goodbye, Milton. Good evening, Dr.
Perhaps I should have considered the offer.
Dr. Reid, any good news to share?
Can you tell me anything about the recent commotion in the hospital?
It's a tragedy, pure and simple. The hospital is meant to be a safe haven to all. We failed the people who trusted us with their care.
Do you think I should not have brought Mr. Hampton back here?
It's not your fault. You rescued that poor soul. It was the Christian thing to do. But we should have noticed his instability.
Goodbye, Dr. Tippett. Good evening, Nurse Hawkins.
Good evening, Dr. Reid.
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
Everybody's afraid. Death has always been a frequent visitor. But murder? How can we cope with that?
As a nurse at this hospital, it is your duty to deal with these things as best you can.
Yeah. Until it's my turn to have blood spread all over the walls. I entered the room first, Dr. Reid. I've seen what that monster did to the woman.
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins.
Bonjour toi.
Hey, Doc.
What can you tell me about the recent commotion in the hospital?
All I know is I ain't letting anyone rip my throat out in my sleep. I found myself a nice blade, Doc. I'm ready.
Oh zut, il a déjà un couteau. Bon bah autant lui rendre son couteau alors.
I have found a gift from your wife.
In that case, you'll be properly rewarded, Doc. Clay Cox is a man of his word.
I hope that won't make me an accomplice to your future crimes.
Who knows what I might do now I feel invincible again.
Ouais, fais gaffe mec, parce que je te rappelle que tu es un hamburger à mes yeux.
I'll leave you for now, Mr. Cox.
Ok.
It seems the Priwen are redoubling their patrols in the district.
Ah zut.
I must be more careful.
Zut, et en plus il a une grosse croix là. Je vois ça, je vois ça. J'ai envie de prendre le loot.
This is Braille.
Texte en
I
braille.
need someone who can read this.
Un texte illisible car écrit en braille dont seul le titre est écrit en caractère romain. Remède contre la cécité. Qui est-ce qui pourrait lire le braille dans le jeu? Le doc de Limehouse. Je vais arrêter là mes amis, je suis super impatiente de continuer, vraiment c'est un plaisir de jouer à Vampyr. La façon dont c'est écrit, le scénario, l'histoire et tout, c'est super méga intéressant, super prenant. N'hésitez pas à me dire en commentaire qu'est-ce que vous pensez du jeu, qu'est-ce que vous pensez des personnages, de l'histoire. Je suis impatiente et aussi curieuse de vous lire. Si jamais vous voulez me soutenir mon contenu, ce que je fais, n'oubliez pas de mettre un petit pouce bleu à la vidéo, pourquoi pas aussi la partager autour de vous, ça m'aide beaucoup si vous le faites, donc merci infiniment. Prenez soin de vous, c'est le plus important. Et je vous dis à bientôt, bisous bisous.